Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juve cast, and it is match of the season, not for Juve, but for our rivals there, Fiorentina. I'm already watching videos, guys, and I mean we're still in the midst of a global pandemic, and the Fiorentina fans are gathered up chanting outside. Like, I don't know if you've seen this video from Maurizio at around Turin, but it's unbelievable. Yeah, they apparently do not care about COVID, and they're gathered up like shoulder to shoulder, chanting, getting ready for this thing. So it's wild to see, but that is the history of this rivalry, which we're going to talk a bit about here. And Lewis, how you doing? Antonia, how you guys doing this morning?
All
I'm
good,
good.
guys. All
Early
good.
morning, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah, there you go. Let's talk a bit about this week. We don't want to get too much into the details, just because it's been a wild week after the loss to Atalanta, and then of course the Super League fallout. Got a lot of Juventini now talking about love lost for the club, and bitter feelings towards even our president Agnelli. So without diving into it too much. I had an article, my weekly column that goes out for Bianconeri Zone, and I laid it out perfectly, as perfectly as I could from my own feelings, which is just there's no love lost on my end. It's always been Juventus versus the world. I'm fine with it. Agnelli, I completely understand what he's trying to do. And I think people need to respect the fact that it's been 2.5 years that this discussion of this league has been going on for. There was a lot of opportunities for UEFA to work with those clubs to get something done. It never had to reach that point. There's two parties here involved. But as far as Agnelli, he's always had people's best interest in mind. So I've got no love lost or no bitter feelings. But how do you guys how have you guys felt after the week that we've gone through? Let's start with Lewis.
Yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster because I think that, and to say briefly, that the Super League wasn't presented very well. Like their presentation
Yeah.
could have been a lot better. They kind of
Yeah.
just were like, "Oh yeah, here's 12 clubs. We're leaving everything and doing the Super League." And then after a couple of days, they were like, "No, no, 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 no." So I think that a lot of the reaction comes from that initial, announcement. I think that as the week's gone on, it's made me kind of, happy a little bit. Like I think that, um, I appreciate that Andrea Agnelli had the guts to do something. It's been a while since he's done that, and now that he gave that presser and he said that now the Super League is off the table, I'm 100% focused on Juventus. Like, so it fired me up for like this rebuild and this project. Like, it's time to get down to the nitty gritty and let's rebuild this team again.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I feel better.
Yeah, there you go. And Antonio, your thoughts?
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Lewis said at the end there, I'm more relieved now that it's done. There'll be no more discussion, obviously, about it, and obviously Agnelli can hopefully regain the reins of this club. Who's obviously there's a lot of work needing done. We've touched on it so many times, and I'm not going to go back on what we spoke about. But on a personal level, my thoughts on the so-called Super League. I think Raf touched on it on his previous pod. I was also the same. I was flip-flopping from one side to the other. I think time will tell. I think if obviously Perez and Agnelli did highlight more than once, let's mention that there are obviously financial difficulties within these clubs. So I think time will tell who was right and who was wrong. But as Lewis says, I'm just relieved that it's done and we can focus now on the season ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And David mentioning here in the comment section that he was just finishing up the last pod, and he says we have some of the best perspective out there regarding the European Super League. So thanks for that. Glad you're enjoying it, David. And yeah, we try our best to give all angles on everything that we discuss, regardless of where our stance is, right? But this one was a weird one, and I agree with you guys. It's not like you can really stand firm on one side of it, because there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to this league that they brought up. But Lewis was spot on in terms of the presentation, and the way it came about was it was also just very un-Juve-esque in how Agnelli would operate. And I fail to believe that they wouldn't have seen that backlash coming. So it almost makes you feel like they knew it was coming, but they wanted to do it, and they wanted to stir that up in order to maybe get that final push and change out of UEFA. But now all of a sudden you're second guessing that too, in terms of the fact that we're the only ones that seem to be facing some type of further punishment as the other teams have bailed out, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think the other clubs should have stood firm. And interesting enough, Danilo, who is easily becoming one of my favorite players on this club, that interview was fantastic.
Yeah.
Danilo's latest interview, and he laid it out perfectly. And he says, how did UEFA care about us as players, making us travel all over to play these extra games during this pandemic, threatening to prevent us from representing our international sides? And he goes, I didn't take to that kindly. And then he also made the obvious point, which is 12 clubs made an agreement. Therefore, they all agreed that changes are required. So something does need to change, But the worst thing, and this was my worst fear, and I posted it on social media after the team started to bail, is, man, you've just created a bigger monster in UEFA by giving them even more power. And Sefrin right now, my God, the shit he's saying, he's on a massive trip right now. And that's the worst thing that could happen. But it'll be interesting to see as fall continues. And now the rumors begin. Who's going to take over for Agnelli? Nazi, Lippi, Del Piero's name thrown out there, and it's like, okay, I love Del Piero, but come on, we can't be serious here. He's not ready.
Bring back Don Maggio.
What did Romeo Agresti say a while ago? The unbearable army of nostalgia. And that's the way you kind of put it in. It's just like, man, I love ADP, but president of a club right now,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Lippy. We had a good discussion about Lippy on the last pod with Omar and Ivan, and it's like, I can't see him as a president either. But the technical director, fantastic for Lippy, in my personal opinion. But as a president, I don't know. It's straight up business. It's more separated than that just football side, right? That's why I don't see those particular guys in it, But hypothetically, let's just get your guys' takes on some of those names getting thrown out there, just hypothetically.
Well, could you imagine the scenes when Juventus scores a goal and Lippi's just standing in the stands smoking the cigarettes? I mean, it'd be great. For that alone, I'd sign up. He could take the club, but that alone would be cool. You know what? I think that the rumors are fun. There's a lot of clickbait, but Andrea Agnelli's not going anywhere. At least not for another 2 to 3 years. He just won 9 straight Scudetti. Juventus was in the gutter, and now they're on top of the world. They've signed players like Ronaldo, De Ligt. He's not going anywhere. He's not perfect, but he's done his job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Antonio, your thoughts?
Yeah, I always seem to agree with Lewis, to be honest with you. Agnelli, I think Agnelli, he'll become even more stronger after this. I don't think I think we've learned now he's not a guy to back down. I don't think he takes the threats very kindly. Let's not forget he's a very intelligent human being. Have you seen any of his interviews where he speaks English? I mean, it's flawless. I mean, he is. Yeah, I mean, the guy's clued up and he knows what he's doing. I don't think this is over by any stretch of imagination. I think Juventus, Real Madrid, I think a lot of the legal teams will start to be preparing for battle, to be honest with you, because I don't think... And Danilo obviously speaking up, that's a big point from the players' stance.
Yeah.
Ilkay Gundogan, plays in Manchester City, said the exact same thing. So I think there'll be a reunion amongst players as well, because UEFA can't get away with this. It's as simple as that. And I hope Real Madrid and Juve stand together and make a stance. They're powerful sides. They've got a lot of influence. And I think they can seriously do UEFA damage. And I think we all want to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it's crazy. But David, coming in with a good comment here is that the English media is just completely trashing this thing, and almost seems like they're just pulling the media strong arming opinion, right?
There's one simple fact for that, because obviously Sky had no chance of broadcasting any of these games. Over in the UK, it was trashed from the word that it was mentioned, because the Sky were in serious problems if this went ahead.
Exactly.
They would have went bust, so that's why.
Yeah. And that's what people need to understand is just like, the ties, the links, even when they were talking about clubs that like, oh, were they invited? Weren't they? Well, PSG's got some close ties to UEFA and the TV rights there and stuff. So it's just like there's conflict of interest all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. So people have to remember that. But
I just want to touch on one thing, Antonio, what you're saying about the English clubs in the comment. The English clubs, their fan bases have a weird relationship with a lot of their owners. Like outside of Chelsea, you don't see a lot of the owners at the games. Like John Henry for Liverpool's never there. The Glaciers haven't been there in years. Kroenke's basically tanking Arsenal. So I think like some of the reaction, like the reason it's partially different in England, it's the media, but it's also these fans just can't stand their owners. Like that's another thing why Andrea Agnelli is a great owner, because he's at every game. Like he's a great president. He's physically there. Some of these guys are just they're in for the money, and you can see it.
Of course. I've got a very good friend of mine actually is a Chelsea fan, and I said to him a way back. We've actually had this discussion many a time. And I said to him, I says, what do you think is going to happen when all these foreign owners are coming over with no ties to the club? Almost no heritage to anything to do with British football. All they've got is money and power. Eventually, they're going to want to do their own thing. Now, I think they've backtracked. I've seen a lot of comments. Obviously, there's been a mention of UEFA possibly paying these teams out. I strongly believe that might be the case, because there's something doesn't add up for me. I mean, they can't change that drastically in 24 hours. I think there's a lot of money involved in the back.
And I'm not buying this thing that these other clubs didn't know that they were going to go ahead and present this all of a sudden and just move forward with it. Like all these managers like backing out all of a sudden, like it's not adding up. It's just, there's a lot that's not adding up. So just been a wild week. But of course, the one thing that always matters the most to me is just the escape, watching Juve play. The actual matches. And today we've got Fiorentina versus Juve, a rivalry matchup. And you see a lot of the discussions talked about in this one, and saying, around 80, 81, that is when it started to really, really intensify. But it even dates further back, like way further back. I believe the first time they met, Juve pumped Fiorentina 11-0. And there was, again, one of the things with Italy, and I mean, some Twitter handles dedicate themselves to pointing out the fact that Juve has supporters from all over Italy, and like to harass them, almost like, oh, you're not from the North Italy. Who cares? Who gives a shit? They're better than your club, and that's why they want to support them. So this is one of the things that the Tuscan people found offensive, is when these people started to cheer and support Juve, and then it grew from there. And then, of course, the Scudetto run in 80-81, where very, very controversial, and it came down to penalties. And it almost like that whole thing with Juve and getting calls started, historically, just in this feeling. And there was a crazy match. Both of those were Scudetto deciders. Fiorentina not getting a goal canceled due to a foul on a keeper. And it ended up taking them away. Juve ended up getting the win after their, I believe it was Catanzaro didn't get a PK, and then Juve went the opposite direction, got a PK call, won it. It was pandemonium. Then, of course, you have the transfer of Roberto Baggio, and that was like the highest profile guy that made that switch. And they've always been labeled traitors. and just really attacked by the Fiorentina fans for any of these players. Do we remember our latest addition, Chiesa, and what he had to go through walking out that tunnel? He wasn't even at the club there. He was on national duty. He was on national duty when he made that move and making up the tunnel there, and he was still taking the heat. These players take the heat, and we're going to have a little fun now and see. And everybody that's joining us live, for sure, take part and see if you guys can come up with these guys too. Players that have represented both clubs. And Lewis, of course, Antonio, we got to face the music here. We're old balls, okay? We're old balls. So maybe we'll leave some of the fresher ones to Lewis there, and then because and then we'll just see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. But let's start with Lewis and get him to kick us off on players that have represented both Fiorentina and Juve, and have a little fun. Let's see how many we can name, how far we can go.
All right. We have Chiesa. We have
okay, just one. We'll go around in circles.
I didn't know how it was going.
Look at this. So Chiesa and Chiellini.
Bernardeschi.
Okay, so let's get those three right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chiesa, Chiellini, Bernardeschi. Now, Antonio, let's do it one by one now and go around, see how far we can go. Antonio, name one. Neto. Okay. Baggio was already mentioned, so we're not going to count him. I'm going to go with one of the absolute best to play for both sides. We got to be serious here. Felipe Melo.
I forgot about him. Absolute head case again.
I hate it. So, Lewis, you're up now.
Fan favorite, Martin Cáceres.
There you go, Cáceres.
Angelo Delivio.
Nice. Torricelli.
Oh, I'm struggling now.
Juan Cuadrado.
Yeah.
Oh no, I am. Oh no, I knew it was going to be. I'm terrible at these games. When I go off air, I'll be able to rhyme them all off. But
of course you will.
Try to think. You might need to time it out here, Al. Pass. Struggling. Really struggling.
Adrian Mutu.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to blank now.
There's one you should be able to get here. And he's actually played for quite a few.
We say. Oh, I've got it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Aquilani.
There you go.
Oh, that's right.
And now we're getting with a lot of older guys here. Look at Imran. He's just like, I forgot how long this list actually is there. Oh, Imran's throwing one out there.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. I think we can keep going. Keep going. There. Oh, dude, there's one. He was like a player I was like thinking would be incredible, and it never really amounted to much. And he had a sad demise, but very, very talented player. Super talented player.
Ooh.
You need to put us out of misery here, Alberto. Who was it?
I believe, and I could be mistaken, but did Mikoli not play for Fiorentina and Juve?
I think so, yeah. I was going to suggest him, but I couldn't remember if he played for both or not.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And then Idris is throwing out a Maori.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
Maori. And then if we go way back, Verkelwood.
Luca Toni.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, you are putting me to shame here, guys.
Marchioni.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one. Did Christian Zanoni not play with
Cristiano Zanetti?
Yeah. Zanetti, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Zanetti, and now I think I am done, boys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to the kind of Delivio days. Something's telling me there's another one. I don't know if it's maybe Sergio Porini or Lorenzo Amoruso, I think, was at Juventus before.
You know what, Antonio? Antonio and I are working on a project. Well, the AJC team is right now. AJ's got Melo. We named Melo. He's popped up in one of the videos on the project we're working on, Antonio Balzaretti.
Oh,
And he's actually a presenter and does on as well, isn't he?
Yeah. Balzaretti. Oh, Idris throwing out Boyanov. Good shout.
Valery Bozhinov.
I forgot the Balzaretti played for Juventus.
Yeah, he played
Yeah.
2006 under Capello, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's all I got, boys.
Did Molinari
Idris throwing out
play?
Mutu. We've named Mutu. I think if there's anybody else out there, you named a bunch. That's a fun game, though. I like that.
Yeah, it was good.
I like that. And now we get to the match itself. And guys, we've been talking a lot about top four and, the confidence that we have in this club being able to get there and cross that line. I personally, I feel okay, but I know you guys are struggling just because of that consistency, right?
Yep.
From the players. And I think that last match was a prime example for me of why I'm asking more of our guys, and regardless of tactics and all this and whatnot, because there's nothing stopping Alexandro from playing like that regularly. You know what I mean? And then you see this game and you see guys like that just kind of like pop up, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, now you actually look like a footballer. You know what I mean? And the rest of the time it's too flat out of him and stuff like that. And then you start talking, well, was he offered freedom in this particular match and he's not offered it in others? Still, it's that drive, it's that desire, it's the emotion he's showing. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to it, right? But these matches, this little stretch of these three ones, Parma, Fiorentina, and then Udinese, must wins.
Yeah.
You can't draw these ones. These have to be victories. This one, after our first encounter with them, where Cuadrado got the early card and got sent off, completely unacceptable to lose to a team like Fiorentina 3-0. This one, I'm expecting Juve the same. I want everybody to play like Alexandro did in the last one and kick things off and drive. A little bit surprised that the original projection didn't have Dybala in there, but I believe he will be starting today. I think the lineups have just come out, and Dybala is up top with Ronaldo. And Panju, actually, there we go. This is why we get live, and we have these awesome Juventini joining us. He's got the starting list for us to discuss, as I was just about ready to pull it up. Szczesny in goal, Bonucci, Chiellini, De Ligt, Cuadrado, Rabiot, Bentancur, Ramsey, Sandro, Dybala, Ronaldo. 3-5-2.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the classic sense.
Yeah. The classic sense.
I just love watching Lewis every time Rabiot is mentioned. I just see his face going white, just going grayer than grey.
Expect 10 minutes into the game for me to tweet that my liver is never recovered from the years.
Oh, brilliant!
But
yeah, and man, so this midfield. Bentancur and Rabiot, like Pirlo's been speaking to Rabiot and just how highly he's starting to think of him, right? And Rabiot's making his cut there. I know when we're in the two-man pivots, that Rabiot Bentancur thing is at times frustrating, but it's not as frustrating for me as when you're slapping McKennie out on the side.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Makes no sense.
I think you can get away with a two-man pivot with some of these guys in a combination. It's maybe not the best, but Artur, again, now since his comeback, probably still battling that injury or whatnot, and not quite 100, but he hasn't been able to make it his own, and get back into what made us think, hey, this could be the next step or where we need to go with and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be interesting. This midfield, Rabiot, Bentancur, Ramsey. Ramsey's just kind of been odd man out for a while now, and still just getting like low minutes here. I'd like to see him do well here. I'd like to see this actually stabilize with these three midfielders. I think it gives us our best. As far as at the back, Bonucci, Chiellini, De Ligt, no worries with me because Bonucci does his best when Chiellini's back there. De Ligt, you never have to worry about. That'll be fine. Quadrado's been one of the best this season. I mean, despite what we may think about him defensively or whatnot, he's got an insane amount of assists. So he is contributing a lot, and he's making up for the numbers that were probably lacking out of our midfield. Definitely in terms of creation and whatnot. Danilo, always a big name when he's been not in the lineup. That guy's been probably, you can make the argument for our best player of this season.
Yeah.
And this was an interesting conversation and thinking of who people would name. And for everyone joining us live here, let's just get your opinions, and even you guys here. Who would you say our best player this season is? I want to hear from everybody that's on our live and you guys. Antonio, who would you say our best player this season has been so far?
Because I'm one of the older ones on the podcast and the AGC team. I remember what Juventus used to be. I remember how they used to, first and foremost, how they conducted themselves off the pitch, how they spoke, and just how they represented the club. And for me, it's a simple one. He's the most improved player. He's a person who I think recently has represented the club perfectly, and he's the most consistent player, and it's Danilo. For me, 100%. I think when he's not playing, he's sorely missed. As I say, and that's the reason I would pick him personally. It's just because of obviously the reasons I touched on.
Yeah, Lewis.
Yeah, it's Danilo for me. There's a close shout out for Juan Cuadrado. I think just Danilo has played more minutes. I think recently it was pulled that he played like the top 5 minutes in Serie A, and he's even ahead of Ronaldo in minutes, which is ridiculous if you think about in terms of fitness and So I think it's Danilo for me. He just, that right center back, right back role that he plays, he's terrific in it. And you look at some of these matches, like in the Coppa Italia, the second leg against Merda. I mean, he put on a clinic. And when would you ever think that was going to happen?
Incredible.
It's amazing to see, and even the way that he carries himself, it's very Juventus-like,
Yeah. And I'm gonna go with it's tight for Cuadrado and Case. I mean, when you really look at it, and I know Cuadrado gives me so many frustrations just through watching, but he's still like to think of the contribution is massive. And those are the two names. And there's a third name too in Chiesa. These are the three names. When they're not on the sheet, those thoughts creep up in your head and you're like, oh man, because you know you're going to be missing something that's been crucial to this side. And when you look at the numbers, I mean, Idris coming in here with one more assist, and Juan Cuadrado will be our best in the last 10 years, surpassing Pjanic, Pogba, Pirlo. It's incredible to think, but I think honestly you can flip on Cuadrado or Danilo and be fine. It's one of those two guys with Chiesa very, very closely behind for me. And you got Panju, same thing. He's got Cuadrado, Danilo close second, and then Chiesa the second half MVP. Abdul Rahman with Danilo, Christian Cuadrado the best. Abdul Rahman adding Cuadrado as a close second. Imran between Cuadrado and Chiesa based on the games that he's watched. Imran with Danilo also being close. Yeah, those are the guys. Those are the guys. And is it surprising with the amount of goals that Ronaldo has put up that he's not in the discussion?
No.
I mean, I guess a little bit, but when you think about just like how the team is in general, Danilo and Cuadrado, the kind of players that you don't expect, right? I think that most fans just you expect Ronaldo to bang in 30 goals, right? But these are players that took their game to another level this year. And I think that's why they edge out, and, Chiesa is just phenomenal. He's been awesome all second half,
Yeah. And I think maybe, just maybe, it does speak a bit to, how this team should look at maybe doing things in the future. I know when you start looking at, when this player's in or this player's out and whatnot, right? But it's these guys in the background that maybe don't get as high a profile as the Dybalas, the Ronaldos, and whatnot, that actually affect even more what actually happens out there, right? It's all these unsung guys or whatnot. But Chiesa, it's like every time he's subbed off, I'm thinking, Jesus, are we going to score a goal? You know what I mean? Quadrado, when he's not out there, man, where's the creation going to come from? Danilo's just like, man, overall just solid, you know. So it'll be just interesting to see who we're all thinking the best guys are. In terms of the starting lineup, guys, what do you think? Is there any changes you would make? I mean, honestly, at the back, Demiral is not available again. This guy in injuries, man.
Yeah, it's new Ramsey in.
This team really in injuries. Chiesa was originally, they said that he would be available for this game. He is not available, and I couldn't help but I was hoping he would play because I think he would absolutely roast his former team. You know, especially after Rocco Comiso being so upset, like a heartbroken ex-girlfriend, you know, that just wouldn't let it go. He didn't call me. He didn't say goodbye, dude.
It's business.
It's just it's interesting to see. I think Chiesa would have absolutely roasted his ex side. But any changes out of the guys, other guys available, or you guys feel strong about that lineup? Would you guys make any changes?
I'd swap McKinney and Ramsey. That would be my one change. I understand like why he went with the midfield that he went with, but I don't see it with Ramsey. He just, he looks lost a lot of the times. He does a lot of work, for the team, but he just never looks comfortable. But other than that, I kind of like, a simple 3-5-2. That back line's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, we talk all the time on the podcast when it's Luca, when it's simplified, Juventus play a lot better. So I'm excited to see it,
Yeah, so good here because you got Panju right away spotting out Ramsey. Anything you don't like in this lineup, Ramsey. And then, of course, Luca Natali with Forza Ramsey. He takes a lot of heat for Ramsey in our team chat there. That's awesome. I think I agree too, though. McKinney would be a shout in there. Any changes you would make, Antonio?
I think Lewis touched on it perfectly. I think when you simplify it, I mean, it's a 3-5-2. There's not many moving parts, and I think too many moving parts during the game. We've seen what it can cause and the problems it can cause positionally with the players. The one thing I'm a bit disappointed that we still haven't seen, I think Pirlo's hinted at it a few times in his press conference, has seen Morata, Dybala and Ronaldo playing all together, as I say. So I mean, I'm still all for seeing these three playing. I think actually Bentancur in his last couple of games, he's been solid. I think he's done his job and he's starting to look like the player that we all know. But yeah, I mean, I can see the argument with McKennie and Ramsey, but Ramsey, out of 10 games, you'll get one decent game out of him. So hopefully it's today.
Yeah. And then Idris with Benta and Rabiot will be the end of me. you got to laugh. But yeah, that's kind of how it's been.
He just knows my well-documented hatred of Rabiot.
Yeah. Eric coming in with a shout. What he would have done is Sandro at left center back and Bernardeschi at left wing back. He just doesn't think you risk Chiellini in this one. That's, yeah. I mean, could easily do that. I think Sandro, with the last match being really an anomaly, I mean, yeah, you could easily do that. He should naturally progress into that. He sacrifices some in aerial battles and whatnot, but I wouldn't expect that to be an issue in this one. And Bernardeschi, a left wing back, suits him probably more than a true left back role. Being left wing back. So that's a good shout too. That could have been a play for sure. I think Delaney at this point, to be honest, 6 games left? risk him or not. I think this is it for Chiellini.
Yeah.
In terms of career and whatnot. Really, really sad that there's not going to be fans seeing a guy like that one out. If, that is it and it ends. There's been all sorts of speculation that, of course, another club, even he and Buffon, but Chiellini kind of crushed that one and said, look, another shirt, what's the point? But it is kind of sad on that front. We've talked about exits and retirements and never really meeting up to the fan standards. This one is ridiculous. They would have to do something for him. Next season, hopefully things normalize a bit and we can get some fans back in the stadium. But they have to do something for him, right? You can't have a guy like that go out with crickets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The left wing back, probably. But I think at this point, again, so little left in the season, risking Chiellini or whatnot, getting top 4. Would you feel better with him at one of those 3 center back roles or Sandro, even if it is Fiorentina, who we should win? We saw what happened last time. Could quickly change. Put him in there because he's a safer bet than Sandro. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think part of what they're looking for is they're looking to see if they can get that Sandro from the midweek match. If you put Chiellini back there, you give him a lot more freedom to, stay higher up and, run up and down that left flank. So I think that's kind of the logic with this match. And no Danilo as well, is a big loss. But I think at this point, yeah, it's tough because you're when Chiellini plays, you're waiting for him almost to pull up with an injury. But you also as a fan, I want to see him play as much as he can if this is really it. It's really sad.
It is sad. It is kind of sad in that sense, right? That it's always tough when you see these clubs and these legends starting to go and whatnot. It's I think I've said this with other guys too. Is just it's never enough. The farewells.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And but I think Juve has been lacking on some of them because some of them you look and you're like, wow, it's just it's not enough. And then you see an exit like Dotti's and you're like, holy shit, The 3-5-2, Pirlo going to it. Pirlo's been so stubborn with the 4-4-2, right? This particular one, I wonder if the switch comes also because of how Fiorentina plays. Because if we remember against Atalanta, it was what I criticized Pirlo of heavily, is that in the first half you saw Atalanta stretch us out in the midfield and really just open up holes quite easily as well. And he never made the switch. And he went out the same second half, and we lost complete control in the second half. Again, Fiorentina, very, very similar with the 2 wingbacks, plays a 3-5-2. I wonder if he's lining up the exact same just to make sure that midfield doesn't get completely overrun again, right? So, I mean, that's the case. Kudos to him to figuring out, but where was it mid-game? You know what I mean? And that's one of the things where now we're 7-6 games left in the season. I get it. He's a rookie manager, but man, I really thought some of those things he'd be stepping up a bit and picking up better at halftime and whatnot, watching those games. So a bit of a frustrating one, but yeah, he's probably just trying to, counteract Fiorentina. Let's talk about Fiorentina a bit. Vlahovic is a name thrown out there as even a guy that Juve potentially targeting. What do you guys think of Vlahovic, and would you like to see him join Juventus hypothetically if he were a target they were going after?
I like Vlahovic. I think he's really underrated. He's a potential target, and it would depend on the price. But he really, since that Juventus game, has really turned it on the last couple months. The only worry for me with him would be that ACL injury. Those are kind of nasty. But other than that, it can't be much worse.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him and man, there's a lot to his game that kind of bothers me that still needs polishing as far as touch, control, any of his hold-up play or whatnot. He could score some goals, though. But man, some of the ones, even the one he scored against us earlier, his original touch was just a fucking nightmare. And then Chesney, he hesitated and didn't get out there and go out and grab it. But I mean, still, even without polishing, this Fiorentina side is nothing to write home about. He's got 16 goals for him.
Yeah.
It's a decent tally. Antonio, what are your thoughts on Vlahovic?
I think he's a Fiorentina player, and that's his level, to be honest with you. I don't want him anywhere near our club because what age is he? Sorry, is he 21, 22? Sorry?
I believe. Lewis, do you know his exact age? I don't know his exact
I think
age.
it's 21 or 22, but I don't know what the exact age is.
So if you're 21, 22, playing the Serie A and your first touch hasn't came yet, then it probably never come, So I do like how he attacks his space, and he is quite quick, as I say, but he's not for me. He's not one of my personal favourites, to be honest with
you. Yeah. Let's talk about a son of a bitch. Here's a son of a bitch, Frank Ribery.
Oh.
This guy apparently is undefeated against Juventus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you not remember the tie in Conte's second year when we went to the Champions League? He ran all over Lichtsteiner.
Yeah.
I still have nightmares about that game.
On his day, Frank Ribery he's still a fantastic football player on his day, and he seems to turn it on every bloody time he plays against Juve. Even when he played with Bayern, he was unplayable.
I absolutely cannot stand the guy. But he's a baller.
Yeah.
He is a hell of a baller.
He's a footballer. Yeah.
And it's what he did it with France too. Used to drive me nuts. He was part of that strong French national side where they were dominating really, and he's a hell of a player. I was shocked to see though that Juve, he's undefeated when facing Juve, but that's going to come to an end today. I'm quite confident. We'll break the schneid there with Ribery and whatnot. Everybody join us live. Get your predictions in. We're coming up close to half hour away from kickoff, but let's start getting some predictions in. Let's start getting your guys' thoughts on this match. How do you think it's going to go? Do you see Juve? Is this a banana peel? Are we going to slip up, or Juve going to come out and get the job done? What do you guys think?
I think.
Go ahead, Antonio.
Sorry, Lewis. I think this one's really easy to work out, even for someone who's played the game. If you've played a team, obviously when you played us in the first game, who came to your own stadium with all the obviously the hatred, all the tradition, everything else that goes with it, that's always there. But if you played a game where they've came to your stadium and beat you 3-0 and made you look ridiculous, and been all over the media the next day, all the headlines. In fact, Pirlo should have all the headlines set up in the dressing room for these guys to come into training. They need to motivate themselves big time today. So I'll be looking to see, to see if they're going to take revenge. They need to find this motivation. I hear a lot of this in modern day football, that footballers need to get motivated. I mean, see, if a Juventus football player needs to be motivated, we've got bigger issues. But we just need to look at the game, and they played against us and beat us 3-0. So we need to go out and right in from the start and get the 3 points.
Yeah. There you go, Lewis. How do you think this thing's going?
I think the same thing. I think that one of the strong points for Pirlo has been against the bigger sides. In the second time he's had to play them, he's kind of like learned a little bit from his mistakes. We've seen it a couple times this year. So I'm expecting us to have a better performance. Everyone's been trashing Juventus. Right now it's Juventus, Real Madrid against the world, it really is. So I'm thinking on the flip side, Fiorentina is going to be really fired up. This is their game of the season. This is a small club that wants to beat an ESL side. So I think it's going to be like a 3-1, probably close for an hour, and then Juventus pulls away.
There you go. Nice. I don't see I don't see a draw. I don't see a loss coming for Juve. I think again, if you, even as players, even as a manager trying to motivate this team, I think, you touched on it, Antonio, but I mean, especially now after this past week where it's really been cemented that it's, Juve against all, it should be very, very easily to pick yourself up and get ready for any opponent that's staring across at you on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's time to get your shit together and now, like, get the job done, get that top four, stick it to everybody that thinks, the club's doing this just because they're flat out not going to make it or whatnot. Get the job done at all costs. Come out and just pump these teams, and then you've got a hard stretch after Fiorentina and Udinese. It's Milan, Sassuolo, Inter. That's where that's where that top four is going to be settled. You can't afford anything else in these two matches, and nothing shy of a win. If you can't motivate your players, and you as a player can't get motivated now,
exactly,
then we shouldn't have been in the top four in the first place.
Correct.
If you can't do it now in this crunch time and get up for it, and honestly, I don't even want to think about it. So I'm going to have faith that we are going to come out and we're going to get the job done. And take it to Fiorentina. Clean sheet. I see some of these score predictions coming out, and we've got a 2-2 from David. AJ coming in with a 1-1. Idris coming in with a 1-0 victory. Tight one like that. Lewis was going 3-1. I'm going to say, I think 2-0 for Juve in this one. I think we'll get the 2-0 victory. Antonio, you want to toss a score on your thoughts?
I hope I'll say I don't care how the win comes. We just need the points now. I think it'll be two. I hope, and I think it'll be 2-0 Juve.
Yeah, there you go. Now these rumors starting to pick up with particular player, and I want to talk about Szczesny. Obviously with Donnarumma out there, and it's I've seen both extremes out there saying Donnarumma, you're looking to cut Szczesny, and then you're gonna get Donnarumma, and Donnarumma's not that good. Is Donnarumma not that good? I was kind of like taken aback by reading those takes and saying that, no, you're going to spend more money on a keeper that's not that good. Some saying not as good as Tech, and I'm just like, I'm not there. But I want to get your guys' response and reactions to those comments.
I find that really shocking. And even if that's the case, if he's not as good as Tech, he's also 10 years younger. This is a guy that's literally, he's been starting since he was 16. Like that is so rare for any player, especially in Italy, to start since they were 16. Granted, Milan has not been the best club, but still. And he's been playing for the international team since he was 18. So I think, look, I love Tech. I think he's underrated. I think that, he's made some mistakes this year, but he's been pretty solid overall. I just think that if you have your goalkeeper for potentially the next 10 years, and he's one of the best in the world, which he is, he's close to being a top 5 keeper in the world. I think that it's a no-brainer. If he's free, you take him.
Yeah, I think that's how I feel. I feel it's a no-brainer if you get him on a free, even if his salary's up there. Szczesny's on a 7.5 salary, so a big chunk of it is just getting replaced there, right? But Antonio, do you feel the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I always think when you look back in the history of the club, there's always most of our successful keepers have always been Italian. Dinosaur, Peruzzi, Buffon. I'm a bit biased to the Italian boys as well. I want to see us restart this project with guys like Chiesa, Donnarumma if he comes. That's why I'm all for guys like Scamacca, Bernardeschi. They know what it means to play for the club, and that we go so far. We talk so much about identity, marketing, branding, all these things. But you need to remember, traditionally, Juventus has always been a club where we've had links to the national team as well. My dad always says to me, in 1982 won the World Cup, it was Juventus that won the World Cup. You could probably argue in 2006, there's an argument for that as well, because there's a strong nucleus of Juventus players. Because there's always been, any time we've been successful, there's been a strong link to the national team. Mancini's doing a great work with the Italian team just now, and I see no reason for the most successful team in Italy to buy the best players of the national team, Donnarumma, Chiesa. I think if that deal can be done, it should be done yesterday.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's I've been saying it for a while, and I think I said it a couple episodes ago that that link, even when you look outside of Juventus and you look outside of the Italian national squad, but you've seen it historically that chemistry gets built and it transfers over. So it can definitely help when you have a solid core that shares their national side as well as club football there. But let's see here. We've got Dells 09 coming in with a comment on Donnarumma. If Gigio wasn't Italian, Juve fans wouldn't regard him so highly. Objectively speaking, there's much better keepers out there we can pay 15 million to. But can you get them on a free? That's the thing. Can you get these guys on a free, and who's out there that you're going to pay 15 mil to? I also, again, with these numbers, it kind of goes back to the Dybala thing, right? I mean, everybody had that number of 15 with Dybala there until he came out and finally just said, guys, like, no. You know what I mean? So you got to take everything with a grain of salt, but I don't know. I don't know if I would be not regarding him as highly if he wasn't Italian. I mean, the same comment that Lewis made earlier. You have a kid that's been starting regularly at 16.
For AC Milan, let's not forget. Okay, AC Milan's not the Milan we know, but he's been starting from 16 for AC Milan.
Yeah,
he's
been the captain for 2 or 3 years now. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Filling the role for the national side of Buffon. So even if he wasn't Italian, put this guy on another, team still, regardless of Milan's struggles and where they've been or whatnot, still always one of those top clubs. So so you've got a kid that's still starting in a major league, one of the top leagues since 16, and playing nationally since 18. At the end of the day, I mean, you've got an opportunity to get this guy for free and lock up that position for, a significant portion of your future. I just don't see a downside to it. I really, really don't. Even if we're talking about a difference in 3 to 5 million more in salary, I really, really don't. But to each their own. Like I said, I've been seeing the extremes there, so wanted to get your guys' takes on that. Fiorentina, Juve. As we get ready to send off and head out to this match and watch it, I want to see your favorite moments in this matchup. Let's get some of the favorite moments. And Antonio and I are working on something really, really cool that's going to be coming out, and I think that definitely has to be one of our moments. Is that hit, that goal, that volley? And Antonio, you want to talk about that one? I'm sure that's one.
Yeah, I can remember that goal and that game in particular. As I say, as we spoke about, and obviously the chat that we've got going, most of the goals that I've chosen, I've obviously got a sentimental attachment to them because recently, obviously, circumstances changes. I'm older. I've got a family. My dad's obviously doesn't stay so close to me anymore, so we don't get to spend a lot of time watching the games. But that was one of the games I remember watching with my dad when the UK used to broadcast all the games on a Sunday. And I can just remember running out with a ball after the game on the park with my local friends. And for that, every single day after that, I wanted to be Alessandro Del Piero. And that goal I'll always remember that goal for the rest of my life. It was just something, like, my God, who is this guy, So, yeah, I remember it well.
Incredible goal. And I mean, everybody's got to see it. I posted the picture of it on Twitter yesterday. incredible goal. I mean, just a ball over the top from almost midfield, right at the center line. And he watches it come in over his shoulder and hits it with his strong foot, even though it's on his weaker side, hits it outside of the boot and just puts it right in the top corner. Insane. Absolutely insane to do. This was in 1994, and Del Piero was really, that was the beginning of Del Piero at Juve, and that goal was just, it was something else. The celebration too, like even the players, you watch some of the shock that they were just like, wow.
Yeah.
But everybody knew how special ADP was. And it didn't take long for him to start to really cement that and hit home with guys. But that goal, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Lewis, any Fiorentina Juve moments kind of sticking out for you?
Yeah, there's a couple. The big one, Juventus Twitter shared it this week, but that 5-0 rout
Yeah.
when we won that first Scudetto. I mean, there's so many magical moments of Conte's first year here and our comeback, but that was one of them. And Pirlo scored a weird Andrea Pirlo goal. In the box like a classic number 8. Just the keeper. He didn't even look like he meant to do it, That's one. When we played them in the Europa League, Conte's last year, Pirlo had an absolute banger of a free kick.
Wow, what a goal.
It was an ugly tie. And then I think it was Higuain's first goal for Juventus.
Yeah.
He came off the bench and he scored against Fiorentina. And that was I just remember being so hyped for Higuain in the summer because he was so dominant in Serie A. And all that build up for him to get that goal, and it was a winner. Those are the three that stick out for me.
Nice. Hey, real quick, everybody that's checking out this video, please hit the like. And if you're checking it out for the first time, hit subscribe. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up from AJC. I always forget the business end at the top because I'm so excited to talk about these matchups and all the news going around that I forget the basics. But please, guys, it all means a lot and it all helps out. So please do that. In terms of moments, I remember when, again, going back to ADP, I'm old. I'm old, guys. So all the old stuff, like that's when the memories were built. It is what it is. But Del Piero was going in tied with Bonaberti for career goals for Juve.
Yeah.
And he was going into a matchup against Fiorentina. And not only did he surpass it, but he did it with a hat trick. Okay. Del Piero was an absolute beast. Mutu was the one, I believe, that headed one down to him. He spun and hit it with his left, and that was the one that surpassed Bonaberti. And that goal was just, it was clean. It was sick. The way he settled it, chest, foot, down, left-footed, top corner. I believe it was Frey at the moment that was the keeper at that time. Sebastian Frey, possibly. I don't know. I could be mistaken, but hell of a goal. I think he scored a banger of a free kick in that game as well. Unbelievable, though. Fiorentina is actually like one of probably the most common teams on highlight reel goals for Juve. If you start digging up some banging goals, Fiorentina will be in there, and it's probably something nice to point out to any fans of the Viola because of how much they hate us. So we got all these great moments and bangers against them. Antonio, you were going to say something?
No, sorry. I was just going to say, and back to you've got me started with Del Piero. I mean, the guy's my hero. But Lewis actually sent me an extract that he'd seen online, but Alex Ferguson's comments on Del Piero when he tried to sign Alessandro. As I say, for anybody watching, if they've never seen those comments, I would go and do it immediately, as I say, because the guy's held in the highest regard by players, present players, past players, as I say, and he embodies everything that Juve are. And going forward, as I say, I would love to see him in a position in the club, whether he's a president or a sporting director.
Yeah, that's the thing, president.
Sporting director. But yeah, I'd love to see him back doing stuff for the club.
Absolutely, I agree completely. We're gonna finish up. We had a lot of fun earlier naming players that played for both sides, and now we're gonna finish up with who's the all-time leading scorer in this fixture historically. Fiorentina versus Juventus.
It's not ADP.
ADP is the top. Who do we want to try and name any of the other top five?
I was actually going to say Gabriel Batistuta just because I'm still stuck in the 90s. But
Batty Goal is one of my guys. On the podcast with Omar and Ivan, we were talking about players that you always wished would play for your team. Batistuta was my pick. Batistuta was my pick. And actually, he isn't in the top five of this fixture for goals. Del Piero's top. If we have anybody that wants to take some stabs, we have to think too, like this fixture dates back to the 30s too, right? So
Sivori?
It's been, sorry?
Omar Sivori?
Sivori's not in there.
Is Baggio in there?
No.
I think I would just be
I
starting.
told a little story about Del Piero surpassing someone.
Boniperti.
Boniperti is next in line, and Del Piero's edged him by 1 goal. 11 for ADP, 10 for Boniperti. A couple of the other guys tied at 8 goals. One of them is Roberto Bettega. The other was Felice Borel, and then John Hansen had 9.
Yeah.
All Juventus in the top 5 for those ones. AJ coming in here dates back to the 30s. Buffon, maybe. So that question, though, Batistuta brings up great memories of watching Calcio in the 90s, man. That guy was an absolute killer. Was part of the incredible trio that actually was the last time a smaller side won the Scudetto, which was Roma. Cassano, Totti, and Batistuta, right? He was my guy. So I'm going to finish off, and everybody join us live. Have fun with this. Let's go. Player, it could be players that you always wished would have played for your club, would have played for Juve. Batistuta, I've named. Lewis, who's a guy you always wished would play for Juve?
There's so many names, but I think off the top of my head,
throw some out there.
Daniele De Rossi would be one.
De Rossi's one for me as well.
Totti's another one. I always liked Totti growing up. Those two, Montella's another one. I liked Roma players growing up. I had a cousin who was a Roma fan.
Jesus Christ, I was going to say, man, you're having a love affair. Roma guys.
Well, you know what? When I first started watching Calcio, it was because my cousin, who's a Roma fan, so he used to tell me like players. It wasn't until the World Cup when I like saw Del Piero score against Germany that I was like ever invested in the club. But
I will say I've always enjoyed Roma's kits and the colors, and like it's I always have. They have had some great players there, and they had a hell of a team when they won that back then. They were scored. Their attack was just madness. It was madness that season. Antonio, some players you always wished would on the stripes.
Obviously, back when we were really competitive, and obviously we were the superpower in Europe, we used to have some ding-dongs with Manchester United, and I always loved Roy Keane, Beckham, and as much as Lewis and I despise him as a human being, as a footballer, Ryan Giggs. Giggs, Beckham, and Keane were my 3 super ones I always wanted to see. In terms of obviously a bit closer to home, Batistuta and Luis Figo were the ones I always wanted to see.
Figo's a good
Figo was he's still, for me, he's still the best Portuguese player ever.
Somebody asked me recently if I could sign one player, who would it be? And I said Messi, just because, like, who wouldn't want to see Messi play for their club? So then that'd be like a modern day shout, like, like just to see. Also, Gattuso would be another one.
Gattuso was Ivan's pick.
Good shout.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Ivan picked Gattuso and said he would have loved to have Gattuso in the side there. Thierry Henry, like we had him too.
Yeah.
I think at the time we were playing him as a fucking
Wing
fullback.
back. He wing back. That's right. He was number 6. He actually get big fucking number 6 left wing back.
Yeah, but he went on to obviously just being an absolute force in the Premiership, and I always loved Thierry Henry. Here's a great shout from Del's Nesta.
Oh yeah.
It's injuries. It's just they never. I don't ever seen his.
In the big tournaments, he could never do that because he always got hurt. And like, I mean, World Cup 06 was no different. The Euros before that, like, always missed out on these big tournaments. But as far as defending goes, no question, one of the absolute best. Maldini is a guy, you know, like, holy shit, man. Maldini was a beast.
Ronaldo as well. Sorry, I meant to actually mention the Brazilian Ronaldo. I would have loved to have seen him, but obviously, he was one. He was one back when before his major, obviously his first serious injury. Ronaldo's one of those guys that you used to record the games and run home from school, take him from school to watch him because you didn't know what he was going to do, and he was just such a gifted footballer. It was a sad tragedy to see how it all kind of unfolded. Because he could, and Ronaldinho, that was the other one I wanted to add in.
Yeah,
nice. Ronaldinho was incredible to watch too. Wasn't quite the same when he came over to Milan. Still a great player, but it wasn't the same, right? That Ronaldo, R9 was that's a crazy shout. He's arguably one of the best ever. Watching him was nuts. The speed of the dribbling with the ball at his feet was like, it was insane. It was you just had to sit back, and if your team was facing him, my God, you were always in fear. Who was the defender that said you literally don't sleep? Yeah. You said you literally don't sleep the night before you face this guy. Right?
Yeah. They asked him how you stopped him, and you said you don't. You just hope that he's not on his best game because he's unstoppable. Yeah.
Even when you watch him in like highlights, like, because that's my exposure to him. Like, I didn't get to see him in his prime, but even when you watch like the highlights of him, like, it's not like anything you see. He's throwing people off of his back. He's doing skill moves. He's dribbling through people. If he never gets hurt, like, he probably would have been the greatest player ever. Like,
absolutely,
everything to be it, you know.
And this brings me to the last question as we wrap up. We're 15 minutes from kickoff, so we're going to let everybody go and have fun and enjoy this match today. But last question: you could take an injury away from any player in the world and see their career unfold without the major injury. Which player do you give an injury-free career to?
Ooh.
Ronaldo.
R9, eh?
Oh, absolutely.
For the sake of being different, I'm going to throw Baggio in there.
Yeah, for me, it's tough with even Baggio. Baggio is tough. I still say I would have loved to see Del Piero not bum his knee up there.
Yeah.
The 98 season there. If we don't see that. That was the incredible thing about Del Piero is he adapted his game completely. The pace that he had before that too, like, those are all great shouts. R9, I think would honestly be probably the best ever.
Yeah, okay.
Baggio was just so beautiful to watch. R9 was an absolute freak. So these are all great fun, man. I had a lot of blast, man. We went all over the place with this one today. It was just a lot of fun, just chatting, the old style calcio, finding out that Lewis has a hidden crush with Roma today. A lot of fun and breaking down things on Juve, and of course, getting ready for this one. So Fiorentina versus Juventus. We have to avenge the 3-0. We have to finish strong. We got them, then Udinese, and then, of course, 3 big critical matches top 4 at stake, and all our hopes of transfers and players and whatnot really relies on this. So it's big. Team's got to get it done. Fiorentina will shape up most likely in their 3-5-2, and that's probably why Pirlo has gone 3-5-2. We put out our score predictions. We're all expecting the victory. It's up to the guys to go out and get it done. Honestly, the lineup we have, more than enough. And this is the part that really why I say it's got to come down to the guys, because we've said that more often than not when we're lining up across these other sides, is that what we have on the pitch is more than enough to take it to these guys, even if you're not factoring in setups and all this other discussion. We have more than enough on the pitch. It's up to the guys to go out and approach the game properly with the right intensity and attitude. Guys that show one match what they're capable of and then disappear for 5, we have to stop. They have to put together every single second down this stretch and get the job done. And it starts here with Fiorentina. Again, all the circumstances surrounding the club should be very, very easy for the team and the manager to get themselves motivated to get the job done. I'm predicting the victory 2-0. We've all predicted victories. Lewis at 3-1. Antonio doesn't quite give a shit about the scoreline. Just win the match. And that's all it comes down to. Just win. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to a couple of great guests, Antonio and Lewis. Always fun when we get the team together. And enjoy this one. Juventini will be back tomorrow with the post-match podcast, 5 a.m. Till then, as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.